Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Riverside Theatre's Backstage Chat. Today it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Now, not only because of the weather, but because we get to talk about Beautiful, the Carole King musical, and I have two of the great stars from the show with us this morning. I'm speaking with Sarah Bockel, who plays Carole King, and Jake Goz, who plays Gerry Goffin. Welcome to you both. We're thrilled that you're here. Now, this is the first time you've been to Riverside and Vero Beach, so what has your experience been so far? I mean, it's only been a week since you've been here, but what has been your impression of the town, of the theater?
Oh my gosh, the bare feet. Everyone is barefoot. I love it. I'm in.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's nice. My mom is from the Orlando area, Maitland, Winter Park, but I haven't been down to Vero. So this is, it's nice, you know, like a certain level of familiarity with the state of Florida, but it's cool to...
Is she still in Orlando?
No, she's up in New York. That's okay. Which is where I'm from. But
do you have any family?
Yeah. A lot of my mom's family is still in the Central Florida area. So
hopefully they'll make the little trip.
Yeah. We're you know, sending the dates out and seeing if people are going to make the trip over.
Fabulous. Now we're talking about Beautiful, the Carole King musical, which is the last production of our 24-25 season, and it plays the Stark Stage from April 15th through May 11th. The brilliant DJ Salisbury, who's director of this production, and now this is the second production he's done this season at the theater. He did Masterclass in February in our second stage, the Waxlax stage, and did a phenomenal job. And this is his 22nd show here at Riverside. So our audiences know him and they know his work. Now, what I loved when he was talking about Beautiful was he was referencing it as a play with music. What would you say? Do you agree with that reference? Would you augment that reference in any way?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think it's so effective the way the play is structured that, you know, it's not... The songs aren't necessarily making the action go forward, because when we sing in the show, we're either auditioning a song or we're working out a song in real time as the songwriters did when they were trying to sell their music. So it's really, I don't know, I think it's a really cool device, and I really enjoy that it is more scene work oriented as opposed to like we're making decisions while dancing and singing.
Yeah. I just to sort of add on to that, DJ and I had a conversation, I think, on the first day about how it is very much a play with music, and there are just a few instances throughout the show where the music informs the plot, or you're singing about what is going on in your character's mind or in the scene, which is really interesting because that's obviously not how a musical usually goes. And it does allow for a lot of really focused work on the scenes and on the moments and what's going on.
And then you get to see a fully realized version of the drifters or the Shirelles doing the music. So you're seeing us work it out and then us try to pitch it to Donnie Kirshner, the famous Donnie Kirshner, who was our record producer at the time, and then you get to kind of flash forward to seeing it on a stage in full, beautiful costume, you know, it being performed live.
For anyone who is unfamiliar, I'm sure people are familiar with Carole's music, as well as the collaboration between Carole and Gerry. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go along. But the synopsis of the show, for someone who might not have seen the show or really doesn't know much about it, what is the story of Beautiful?
I think that's
me. I'll take that one. It is the story of Carole King's life. It starts when she is 16 years old, living in Brooklyn with her mother, and how she becomes a songwriter and then eventually a performer. She starts writing songs for other people, and how she kind of climbs the ladder and perseveres through many obstacles that are very relatable, heartbreak and a lot of heartbreak. And moves across country and eventually gets to California, where she moves to Laurel Canyon and is working with the likes of James Taylor, Joni Mitchell, Lou Adler, Carly Simon, all these folks that we know, and she creates Tapestry.
And at 16, she is self-assured. She's brilliant because at 16 she's in college where she meets Gerry, her future husband and collaborator with a lot of the music. And she goes to the Brill Building. Brill Building in New York is primarily the sort of warehouse
Songwriting factory.
Songwriting factory, where you had all these incredible singer-songwriters put together, promoters, acts, and whatnot. And at 16, it's hard to believe at 16 she had the gumption to go into Don Kirshner's office and say, "Here's my song, you're gonna love it," and he does.
Yes, it's almost like that naivete, carries her through. And her mom even references it. You've been rejected 12 times. Now you're going to go to the Brill Building. And she did, and she just persevered.
And yet, what's beautiful about Carole is that she is this ambitious, brilliant young performer, but then she meets Gerry and she doesn't think that she is what he's looking for. He's flirtatious, he's ambitious as well, and he has something that can give you strength with regards to the music. You create the music, he creates the words. And what was the dynamic of them realizing that they needed to be together?
I think, at least from the way that we see it in the show, it's this immediate connection, chemistry. You see quickly when they meet that there is an intellectual connection, which I think really is the basis of their relationship. I think it really is the foundation, is that they kind of get each other's brains in that regard. And then, you see kind of the young love, the immediate sparks, all that kind of thing. And, we can sit here and debate exactly how accurate that was for Carole and Gerry. I'm sure Carole could tell you, but it's certainly fun to watch within the story.
Yeah, I think she recognizes his genius right away, and he recognizes hers.
Right. Kismet.
Goes from there.
Yeah.
And we know a lot of the songs that Carole wrote as a solo performer, but the collaboration between both of you was tremendous.
Yes.
I mean, you wrote One Fine Day, Up on the Roof, The Locomotion.
Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow?
Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow? That's probably a huge anthem for everyone going through difficult times in a relationship. So Gerry was very ambitious. Carole was too. And you were in this building full of other singer-songwriters. How does the show portray this couple versus the stresses of being in a factory, like you were mentioning before?
Well, they're very competitive. So they're trying to one-up themselves and the next hit, make a living, while finishing college, while raising a baby. And I think what's so relatable about Carole is that she is ambitious, but she also really wanted a relationship. She really wanted to be a mother her entire life. She wanted a home. She didn't want to be a big star.
To move into the suburbs.
Yes. Oh, the suburbs were like her dream before moving to California. And she wanted it all. She really believed that she could make that work. And I think Gerry was ambitious in a different way, where he wanted to be at the pulse of the 60s and 70s music scene.
Yeah, I think Gerry's fear was irrelevance. He always wanted to stay ahead of what was popular. He wanted to be on top of the trends, have a pulse on what was going on. And so it is interesting because they do both have a great level of ambition, and you see over the course of the story how it changes for each of them.
It's beautiful to see the arc of, you're both so young when you started, and then as you achieve success and you've matured as artists, how your candle is shining differently than his candle.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it leads to both of you parting ways.
Right.
And Jake and I were talking a little earlier. If there's an antagonist, your words, to the piece, it is Gerry. but how beautiful that at the end there's sort of this reconciliation and harmony again.
Yeah.
Well, no, like we were saying before, I think you can say pretty firmly Gerry does become an antagonist in the story, but that doesn't make him a villain per se.
No.
And you and I were talking pretty early on how Carole was very adamant that Gerry was a positive force in her life.
He was mentally ill. They didn't have a I mean, they called it manic depression, I think, but what they come to find out later is that he had bipolar disorder, and he didn't get
highs and lows.
Yes, manic and drops, and he's self-medicating and
being in a business that
so stressful.
One hit is great. Well, what's the next one? And then what's the next one? And trying to one up yourself and continue to be king of the hill.
How do you stay relevant?
Relevant? So let's talk a little bit about. Jake has never done this show before.
This
is the first time. So we'll ask what your perception of it through the rehearsal process so far. Finding that character. How do you feel about Gerry?
So a little peel back behind the curtain. I have auditioned for Gerry so many times, and that's the business. That's not just this show. You will audition for things so many times, and then finally something happens. So I came in having a bit of an understanding of Gerry. I mean, we were both Jewish boys born in Queens. Like there was a bit of a kinship there, and honestly, walking in day one or stepping in, I realized how fortunate I am that the three people who I interact with in this show with the most, Sarah Ellis, who's playing Cynthia, and Nick Moulton, who is playing Barry, all veterans of the show, all really, really good at their jobs, and it was easy. I felt like I sort of just slid right in, found that groove really quickly.
Your niche.
And it all kind of melded in real fast, which is awesome.
And to have the support of someone who has done it quite a few times. You've done it on the road, you've done it at regional theaters, but you even played Carole on Broadway in this show. How do you keep, and I've seen some of the snippets of your rehearsal, and you keep it so fresh every time. How do you do that? Is it because it's different people? It's because it's different atmosphere?
I just love it. I like the scenes. I think it's a really well-written show, and I learned. I came into the show understudying, and I thank God, because I was way too green to be able to carry a show like this at that time, and I really learned by watching Abby Mueller and Julia Nightel, and I remember thinking that about Abby, like, you're so present, you're so grounded, you're so there in every scene. It's a little bit, I'd watch her, I didn't want her to see I was watching, because you don't want to look like showgirls,
Right.
like I'm gonna cap her knees or anything. I would just really try and subtly see all the different things that she was doing. I just wanted to learn from her so badly. And she just said to me, I'm just listening. And so I think it's easy to keep it fresh when it's new people bringing something different to it, and also just breathing and just being there with the person and playing the circumstances. And I'm lucky. I get this role that any woman would love to do, in our career. And she has this,
and sing these incredible songs.
Yes, and the songs don't get old. I miss the songs when I don't get to sing them anymore. And I get an arc. I get this beautiful end. I get to go through the meaty, young, fun kid to meaty heartbreak to coming out on top. It's really a gift.
Now there's a story. Now I don't know if Carole came to see your performance when you were on Broadway. So what was that like? I mean, I've heard stories. The first time she went, she took a while to get there. Then she's sort of hiding in the back.
She came and saw us on the road in Costa Mesa because her daughter lives there, and which was great because we weren't expecting her. Thank goodness. I didn't know that she was there. Some Carols have to know that she's there because of other circumstances and getting her backstage and all these things, but thank goodness I did not know. And my very good friend was my dresser, and she said, so I have to tell you something right before bows, like, Carol's here. And I like, you know, immediately burst into tears because I was thinking, was the show good? Was I good? Was I the best I've ever been? And, you know, and you come up for your bow and everybody's already on stage and they look to you. And I was crying, and I remember two of my friends, Elise and John, they looked at me, and I'm just going, God. You know, like, kind of like, and nobody knew. And then Nick, our conductor, knew, and he like looked at me and he was like, we're going to stop the show. And so he held, and everybody was, you know, when there's no music on stage, no one knows what to do. And then she walked out. It was crazy. It was, yeah, and every like picture of me, we sang Earth Move together.
Amazing.
And, you know, she's singing the studio version and we're singing the music theater version, so it's a little messy. But I'm like, so in every photo, I'm like, you know, it's just so strange. And, you know, like I've been told, you know, don't meet your heroes. And I've met some of my heroes, and, you know, they're not always everything that you imagine them to be, but she is, and she's so generous, and it's not the most fun thing to watch a heightened version of your life. Right. Someone that
sort of reliving it.
And these kind of heightened, like painful moments too, and loving moments. So she was just very generous, and I'm very, very lucky that I got to experience
incredible
that.
experience. Wonderful memory.
That's so
amazing.
Let's get back just quickly to the very beginning. How did you know that this is what you wanted to do as a career?
So it's a bit of family business on my end. Both my father and his father were on Broadway at one point or another, which is really cool. But it's not like I grew up with that, and it wasn't just them. I mean, my parents met working together. My grandparents worked together. I have aunts and uncles who are in the business, cousins, but we didn't. It's not like we kind of grew up doing that. Like that wasn't the plan. And I didn't go to school for musical theater. I went to school for voice. So I have 2 degrees in voice, and it was kind of through that 6 years, people kept being like, "Hey man, you're like really good at this theater thing. Like, why don't you do that?" And I went, no, I don't want to do that. And eventually I caved because I realized I really did love it. You know, doing just the art of performing in general, I really enjoy, and you know, I love singing. You know, it's just, you know, I feel very at home doing that. But yeah, just being involved with choir and band and getting into musicals in high school, and then I did a lot of opera in college, and I don't know, it was just this big jumble of things that sort of got me here. It wasn't exactly a straight line, but it worked out.
It's worked out great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Sarah?
Yeah, I was just always singing as a kid. I was like one of those annoying kids. I used to get in trouble for humming in class and like, oh God. And yeah, always like trying to get my parents and their friends to watch me sing Little Mermaid. And it was kind of, I tried to avoid pursuing this because my parents were like, this is really hard. It's really hard. And my dad, you know, they want stability for you. They want a life that isn't constantly what's the next. And I can see, having done this for 15 years, I can see what they were talking about when I was, you know, 18. I was like, yeah. So, and then I was always doing choir in high school, and I kind of like wanted to do the musicals so that I could like wear the costumes. And then I really just loved acting, and I just loved movies, and I loved TV. And like they make Tina Fey makes a joke like TV's her best friend, and that's kind of how I felt. Like TV's my best friend. I want to watch my shows with my friends. And I wasn't gonna pursue it in college, and I was a double major. I was gonna kind of like do it on the side, and then I switched my major without telling my parents to a performer degree, and I knew that I would have to work really hard. I knew that it would be really hard. But I'm still, it's like such a cool job. We get to come to beautiful places and see the world and meet Carole King.
Meet Carole King.
It's really high highs and it's really low lows, but I really don't think I would trade it.
Well, so thrilled that both of you are here. So thrilled to see the show with the incredible cast that you have supporting you all.
Incredible cast.
And we're thrilled for our audiences. If you don't have tickets yet to see Beautiful, the Carole King musical, please get your tickets soon. This play with music is full of many, many wonderful songs. I guarantee you'll know at least 5 songs, at least 5.
I think 10.
No, that's what we keep saying. People are like, oh, I don't really know Carole King.
You
know Carole King.
Yes,
we promise you know Carole King.
Yes, you do. So please, you'll come. Maybe you'll be humming with Sarah and Jake in your seats.
You might be yeah.
So I know you have a full day of rehearsals, and we're so grateful that you spent some time to talk to us. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for coming to Vero Beach, and thank you for the incredible performances that we will all share.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah.
Riverside Theater's Backstage Chat is a podcast where we get to talk to some of the artisans who appear and work on our stages. Thank you to John Moses, our executive producer, and Alan Cornell, our artistic director, for their vision and leadership. And thank you for listening. Until next time, I'm Oscar Sayles.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.